good. It's really a pleasure to be here tonight because we're right in the middle of garden season now at home, and everything is coming in profusion. And I'm here to talk about my latest book, Ciao Italia, Plant Harvest Cook, which is about the Ciao Italian vegetable garden, the garden that you've seen on TV all these years, 30 years to be exact. But none of that would have happened without this lovely man. You all know him, many of you do, as Dr. Guy Esposito, who for 30 years was at the Wentworth Douglas Hospital, now the Mass General. So whether you know this or not, ever since medical school, Guy has had a garden. It starts as a tiny little one, and then over the years, it would get bigger and bigger. And when we moved, we always had a little patch of something somewhere, in a pot or someplace. And now we have a 30 by 60 garden, which is a lot of work. And in the first part of my book, I tell you, a garden will own you. It will own you, and it does, because you can't go anywhere. Now it's harvest time. I've been in the kitchen for days processing the vegetables, but on the other hand, we do eat very well, and we do eat healthy food. So Gaetano, thank you so much for helping me write this book, because without him, I couldn't have written this book. Everything I know about gardening, I learned from Guy Esposito. So during the pandemic, when I didn't know what to do with myself, I said, I'm going to write a garden book based on our Italian garden. And that's how this book came to be. So when I collaborated with Guy, I wanted to make sure that I was doing vegetables that people could have access to. Didn't want to do things where, you're in a zone where you can't grow those vegetables. So I concentrated on where we live and the kinds of vegetables that would grow in Zone 5, which is where we live. And then I thought, well, how can I make the book interesting? We plant a lot of Italian varieties of vegetables, and so I wanted people to be able to use vegetables in an Italian way, how the Italians cook vegetables, and the types of vegetables that Italians really love. So on a yellow legal pad, on a cold winter day in January, Guy and I sat down, and what did you do?
I wrote.
You on? Yeah.
I put on.
No.
Is this on now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What I did is I asked her what she wanted to grow. And we made a list.
Yeah.
And then we crossed out the ones that were impractical. She goes into these flights of fancy after a while. You have to tell her, no. So anyway, we do that, and then I start gathering the seeds, and then we go ahead and plan where we're going to put this stuff. I usually make a master plan for the garden, because if you don't, it becomes a jungle. And we start planting seeds in March. Plant some sprouts and lettuce seedlings under grow lights in the basement, and then we proceed to start tomato plants and pepper plants, which are later things. There's a spring garden and a summer garden. And the spring garden is a cold weather garden, and the summer garden is a hot weather garden. So we get that going, and you sit down and you think about it, but the real thing about having a garden, there's three things. One is you get to grow what you want, which most of the time, many times you can't get. We bring a lot of seeds from Italy. We buy a lot of seeds in this country that are imported from Italy. Okay, that are imported from Italy. So you get to grow what you want. Second thing is, you know how it's grown because you grow it. There's no pesticides, no this or that in there. And then the third thing is that you get to eat it at the time it's at its absolute freshness. It's not shipped for 30 days from California. So those three things make a big reward. Plus, you usually plant too much, and the other reward there yes, it's work in the summer, like she said, but then in December or in February, you're eating minestrone soup, which has everything, vegetables, zucchini, peppers, string beans, tomatoes, all from your own garden. So that's the pleasure of it all. But there's a lot, this garden really is work, it's work. But if you're organized, it's handleable and you can enjoy yourself.
So this book is divided, as Guy said, into two phases really. The spring garden, which are the cold weather crops like lettuce and spinach, peas, and then the hot weather crops in the summer like eggplant, tomatoes, zucchini, peppers. So the book is divided into that, and it acts as a primer for you. Anybody who wants to grow vegetables, this book tells you, gives you that kind of information, including the recipes, as to what you do with these vegetables that you get out of your garden. So I didn't want to make this a real esoteric work. I wanted it to be user-friendly, something that I knew that anyone could follow. You know, when do you plant this? When do you harvest this? It's very simple information. So I look at it as a dual type of book. Yes, it's a gardening book in a sense, because it's very simple information, but it's also a cookbook. So in this book are over 120 recipes based on vegetables, from antipasto to, yes, even desserts. Oh, let's go to the next slide. Okay. There he is. We always use this side to prove that we're actually in the ground.
Actually, this is a sun shielding shirt, and I've had this for 30 years.
This
still works.
It's really important to be covered up in a garden, as you know, because we're hearing all kinds of things. I have a very dear friend who really got bit by a tick, and he got a tick from the Powassan virus, which is very rare.
Which I never heard of until 6 months
And
ago.
it can ruin your life. Neurologically, you are a mess. So you have to be really covered up in the garden, and there's Guy harvesting some of his vegetables. And I'm his, next slide, I'm his helper. So, here we are. What always astounds me about this is we're looking just at bare ground, nothing there. We're bringing up these little seedlings that they've been babied in the basement over the winter. Guy plants them and he plays with them, waters them, makes sure they have the right light. And then we bring them up and we start planting them. So I wanted you to know that I do get on my hands and knees. Next slide. Many of the things that we plant, of course, are Italian varieties of vegetables, and we get a lot of the seeds when we go to Italy. I don't know if you know, but both Guy and I do tours to Italy. We've done tours for the last 20-some odd years, and we take people into markets and show them. You can learn a lot about Italy by just going to a food market. You can learn a lot about people, about their culture, their language, the way they act by going to a market. So this is in Sicily. I'm in the Bucceria market, outdoor market. I'm looking at the variety of seeds. Now, of course, not all of these are going to work in New Hampshire, but I get Guy's advice and I say, well, what do you think we could bring home? Now, you're really not supposed to bring these seeds home, but we do. We just buy in customs and say, no, we have nothing to defend. We haven't tried yet. Next slide.
Well, before you go back one slide. These are some of the tomatoes that we grow here, and I have some samples of them right here.
You'll explain those later.
So, this is where you get it.
And one of the varieties, one of the companies that we took some people to one year was Franchi, which is in Bergamo, in the north of Italy, in the region of Lombardia. Their big plant is there. And Franchi seeds you can find. You can find them online. If you're in the north end, you can find them there. Sometimes we find them at Joe Pace's, which is an Italian store in Saugus, Massachusetts. I haven't seen them up here too much, but yeah, so you can find these seeds and you can find the Franchi seeds for sure. Are you done with that slide?
Well, this is a very unique vegetable.
Yeah.
This is zucchini longa. And baseball bats. But it tastes great.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, but it grows long.
Okay, next slide. Well, you can explain, this is an overview of Guy's garden, what happens after those little seedlings.
Now, the thing about gardening is I've done this for 50 years, and I'm an expert. I'm an expert because I've made every mistake in the book and learned the hard way. But there are certain things that common mistakes that everybody makes. First of all, they pick a spot on their property that's not suitable for a residential garden. You need at least 8 hours of sun a day. Second thing is they don't prepare the soil. If you have sod down, you got to get rid of that, and you got to till it up. It'll take a few years to get rid of many of the weeds. The third thing is if you're going to do something, you've got to plan it so that you cut down the amount of work that you have to do. And what this shows is that these cucumbers here, they're growing in black plastic, which is a mulch. It keeps the ground moist. It heats up the ground in the spring for you. And in the summer, it pushes the tomatoes along too. So the tomatoes are in black plastic mulch. The beans are in black plastic mulch. Everything that you can mulch, we use this stuff or we use straw. Not hay, straw.
Tell them why.
On straw, you get more weeds than you had before you started. So you can see how I mulched in between the rows with straw. So you go out there and it's raining right before the day before, or you're just going out there to pick stuff. You walk on that, you don't track in the whole mess into the house. But and the spacing is very important. That's the other mistake everybody makes is they plant things too close together. So you got to read the seed packs. And if you don't, you pick up a simple gardening book. Not only this book, but others, it'll explain exactly what to do. What we've done in this book is to make the gardening process simple. We want you to be very successful and not have some of the frustration I've had over the years, particularly when I was starting. So this is our home garden about 2 weeks ago, because the tomatoes haven't started to turn. Now our tomatoes are turning.
Okay, next slide. And this is the other side.
Yeah, it just shows you the other side, because the other side of those tomato plants. And this is your summer squash, your cucumbers down here, cucumbers. We grow pole beans, which are a nice crop. Now, the other thing too is you want to maximize the space you have. Now, I have 1/3 of an acre, which is insane.
Really?
For one person. This garden feeds about 4 families. I give away 3 times what we personally use, but that's my pleasure. I have pleasure out of that. And a lot of people get to experience the vegetables.
Next slide. All right, so we start with lettuce.
Yeah,
And as Guy said,
yeah.
you have to, in this book, we tell you how to plant it, how far away to plant it, how deep to plant it. So there's all that information that goes along with each of these vegetables. This, 1 year we grew, how many heads of lettuce did we grow?
100.
Okay, yeah, we grew 100 heads of lettuce. We do eat a lot of salad, that's for sure. And right now, this is a very timely topic, right? Lettuce. We do not want to eat lettuce now,
Remember, if you grow it, you know how it was grown.
You know how it was grown. The only problem is that these 100 heads of lettuce decide to all come in at the same time. There you go.
She's exaggerating.
No, I'm not. I've
Over
seen
3 or 4 weeks.
We eat a lot of salad. So, this is one of my favorites, though. This is a variety called Freckles. And it grows very nicely in the zone that we live in, because a lot of the seeds that we did get, besides the Frankie, came from Johnny's seeds. And Johnny's is based in Maine, so, they're pretty much in the same kind of climate situation that we're in. And this also goes by the name Flashy Troutback. because it looks like, you know, the speckles on the back of a trout. But it's a wonderful lettuce. But, you know, if someone's coming to your house and they're used to iceberg and they look at this, they think you're serving them something that's spoiled because it has all those little dots all over it. So, you know, they're not, you know, they're a little bit, you know, standoffish about that. It's a beautiful salad in a mixed salad bowl. Did you want to say anything more about that?
Well, this one here is called canasta, and the thing about lettuce is that certain types will bolt real early. In other words, as it gets warm, it sends up a central flower stalk, and then you get seeds. But so you don't want that to happen, because then after it starts to bolt, or shoot up the stalk, it starts to get bitter.
Yes.
But in the early stages of bolting, you can still get it. But this is very heat resistant and will last until August, which is very unusual for a lettuce.
Okay, next slide. Do you want to explain this pretty lettuce?
Oh, this is a loose head. We grow a lot of loose heads. This is Italian cultivar called Gentolina. Gentolina. You can see it's gentle. It's soft.
It's a soft leaf lettuce, yes. Next slide. Now this is something that a lot of people don't grow. I love this. This is sorrel actually. It looks like spinach. It's very similar.
Are you sure it's not spinach?
It's not spinach. It's sorrel. Because you didn't grow spinach. Don't try to trick me up.
I'm not tricking you up. I'm correcting you.
This is sorrel. And sorrel is actually an herb. And if you taste one of those leaves, it's puckery lemon. It has a very lemon flavor. And if you know anything about French cooking, sorrel soup, this is a classic in French cooking, sorrel soup. I don't like making soup out of it. I just like using it in a salad, in a mixed salad. And if you cook with it, the one thing that I don't like about sorrel, if you want to cook with it, if you wanted to say saute or something, it turns dark. It really does. It gets kind of brownish looking. So I'd rather look at this beautiful green color and eat it raw in a salad. Sorrel is a perennial. There are many kinds of sorrel besides French sorrel. And I went down to a Bluebell nursery down there in Lee, and they had tiny leaf sorrel, which is very interesting too. But I like this one particularly well. Next slide. There's Freckles again. You see it up close. How, you know, people would imagine, well, what's wrong with her? She's serving us something that's really terrible. Next slide. Now we get to the real thorny parts. Okay. Because usually what I do for the Ciao Italia garden, if you've ever watched Ciao Italia, you know that we always do like 2 garden episodes in every season, because I want people to know where their food comes from. We've got a whole generation of kids growing up thinking everything comes in plastic. You know, they've never seen a whole fish because all you've ever seen in a store here is a fillet. You know, in Italy you get the whole thing. So anyway, one year I said, Guy, I'm going to be cooking artichokes on Ciao Italia, carciofi in Italian, and I need you to grow me artichokes. Well, doing a little research, I found that it's not so easy to grow artichokes in New Hampshire.
That was what I said before.
Right. But I didn't listen because look what we got. You want to explain the artichoke?
Well, it took me 2 years. You know, I like a challenge. Also, actually, if you do garden, every year you should try one thing you've never tried before. You should try a reach crop or something that's unusual or different, or experiment with a new taste.
Yeah.
But anyway, it took me 2 years to figure this out, but with the help of Bluebell Nursery, what you have to do is you start this in January, and you get a 4-leaf plant, a little container. Then it has to be kept in a greenhouse between 45 degrees and 30 degrees for at least 6 weeks.
That's right.
In other words, it's got to be, it needs a real cold spell, it goes dormant, and then once we get into April or May, you can take it out, you can plant it, and it'll take off, and you'll get a flower stalk. if you don't give it the dormant period and the cold challenge, it will grow like crazy, but you'll have this big thorny bush that you'll wonder what, you won't get any flowers. So we did it, we got it.
So how many of you cook artichokes? I'm just curious. Oh, this is good. A good number of you cook artichokes. What part do you eat? The whole thing? Okay, that's great. There's so many people that
throw the leaves away.
most people would throw those leaves away. You know, they look at that and they say, like, oh, we let them because it's got all those little spiky ends to it. But Italian artichokes, for the most part, are thornless. It's a different variety altogether. This is like a globe artichoke. We get globe artichokes from Castroville, California. That's where the majority of our artichokes come from. And we usually get them in the spring and in the fall. So I think this is probably one of the most magnificent vegetables that there are. Now when you eat an artichoke, if you're cooking the whole artichoke, I like to steam them or boil them. If I boil them, I snip off those little ends that are prickly. I take the first row of the bottom leaves out because they can tend to be a little bit tougher, so we can get rid of those. I peel the stem, but I leave the stem on, just peel the stem, and then I put them in water, and I weigh them down. You can put either a potato in the pot. Don't use too big of a pot because you don't want them bouncing all over the place. Use a pot that will hold them pretty snugly. And if you need something else, you can stick a couple potatoes in there to help weigh them down. Then I cook them gently over in boiling water until I can easily pull one of those leaves off without struggle. Then I know that they're fully cooked. Once they're like that, it's very easy to get the choke out. That's the part that people hate. They go in there and they're digging out this thing. Next thing you know, their hands are bleeding. They don't want to have anything to do with it. But if you cook it first whole with the choke, then all you need to do is take a little spoon, or sometimes we use a melon baller, just to go around it, and it comes off very easily.
Yes, you cut it in half. Once it's cooked, you cut it in half, and then you can easily do a melon baller scoop.
And we just like them with melted butter and a little bit of salt. But they're also wonderful stuff. There's so many Italian ways to cook artichokes, stuffed with breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese, or stuffed or meat stuffing or rice stuffing. So there are many ways to do it. So this is a really great vegetable. And people say, you know, there's a funny taste to artichokes after you have a funny sweet taste in your mouth after you eat them. That's something called cinnamon. Cinnamon is that sweet aftertaste that you get from an artichoke. So it's an unusual compound, and people don't like it with wine. They think that it interferes if they're drinking a glass of white wine with it. They don't feel that they're getting a nice taste. It's a difficult match with wine. Okay, next slide. So here is an artichoke now going to seed. So when you buy them in the store, you want to make sure that those leaves are tight, like you saw on the previous slide, not open like this. That's a telltale sign that that's too old an artichoke. It's not going to be very good. So that's when we're going to seed. Next slide. And this is what happens when it has gone fully to seed. It is now a thistle, because artichokes are members of the thistle family. Okay, next slide. Well, leeks. I don't think people realize that this is a vegetable that has a very mild flavor. It's used a lot in northern Italian cooking, like a leek sauce for pasta, or for sauteing vegetables. I think what the problem is with leeks is that people don't know what to do with them. They see them in the grocery store, what are they? And if you do buy them and you get them home, they really are dirty. They're very dirty. So you have to cut them down the center, and you've got to open up all of those different layers of leaves, and you've got to rinse them really well, because sand and such gets stuck in them. But I guarantee you, if you just started in a saute pan with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and finely chopped leeks and just let it cook slowly, 2 ingredients for a pasta, for a simple pasta dish. That's all you need. See, this is part of the beauty of what Italian regional cooking is all about, because that's what I've been talking about for 30 years. I'm not talking about Italian food. I'm talking about Italian regional food, because there is no such thing as Italian food. There's only regional food. And Italy has 20 regions. Each one of those regions cooks very differently. Are you going to find leeks in Sicily to cook with? No. But if you went to Liguria or the Veneto, yes. So it pays to know what the regions of Italy are known for, and that's why people watch Ciao Italia. Next slide. And here they are cut, and I've rinsed them so that they're nice and clean and ready to go. Next slide. Okay, who knows what this is? Swiss chard. Absolutely. You want to talk about Swiss chard?
Well, this is a particular variety called White Lights, which has sort of taken over the seed world the last 10 years.
Yes.
All the stems are different colors. There's purple, red, yellow, orange, and these get very, very big too. It's a very hardy variety, and you can eat the stems. What Mary Ann does is she tears off, everything off the stems, and she cooks that. But the stems you can chop up and saute those.
Or you can caramelize them, bake them in the oven with a little bit of maple syrup or honey and some extra virgin olive oil, just let them caramelize it, delicious. So this vegetable is like spinach in many ways. But I find that a lot of people cook this to death and they don't need to. First of all, these leaves are 90% water. Spinach is 90% water. So why, in God's name, are we putting spinach in a pot and boiling it in water? Why? We're only adding more water. There's no reason to do that. The better thing to do is you wash the leaves, whether it's this or spinach, and just with the leaves that are clinging, with the water that's clinging to those leaves, you put everything in a saute pan. That's all. Leave it in there, dry like just the water that's on
Put the top on.
Put the top on. I leave the top a little ajar so that those acids can disappear and not turn the vegetable grayish looking. And this will wilt down in nothing flat. I can pick a half a bushel of this and do the process that I just told you. And when I'm done, I'll probably have 2 cups of really squeezed out Swiss chard. So the Italians love this as a filling in many dishes, particularly at Easter time. They will make a pastiera type pie, a 2-crusted pie that has Swiss chard, rice, eggs. It can have Italian cold cuts in it. Depending on what region you're in, they all do things differently. It's also a great vegetable to stuff. A nice stuffed vegetable. You wilt the leaves down and then you let them cool, and then you have a mixture of whatever you want to have. Chicken or rice, or I've even done it with ground beef and a little bit of pasta, so it makes a really nice, interesting main dish or a side dish. Next slide. And these are our yellow beets. I am not a big fan of red beets. Are you guys?
No. To me, they taste like dirt. Purple ones are awful. I can't abide them. But there's 2 varieties from Italy. One is the yellow beet, and the other is something called chioga, which it looks like a barber pole. It's a reddish beet, and it has white stripes in between. Looks like a peppermint stick.
But what we like to do with these is marinate them. There's a recipe in your book for a marinated yellow beet salad that's just, again, using just simple but good ingredients. Extra virgin olive oil, a good either red wine vinegar or a white balsamic vinegar, fresh garlic. These are the tenets of Italian regional cooking. Fresh as possible. Don't, not using things that are in a can or have a lot of additives in them, but keeping things simple.
Yeah, you boil these, then they cool, you slice them. Then she goes ahead.
Well, you've made a marinade ahead of time. You make the marinade ahead of time because the trick to this is, once these are cooked and you can handle them, now I have asbestos fingers, so I can handle them right away. Peel them and slice them. You want to put them in the marinade while they're still warm. This is so true for other types of vegetable salads that Italians do, like green beans and mint with extra virgin olive oil and garlic and vinegar. They're always put in warm because that helps the vegetables to absorb all those flavors. Next slide. We do grow herbs, and Italians are big users of all kinds of fresh herbs. The only dried herb they really use is oregano. For some reason, oregano has a better flavor when it's dried, and I do dry oregano. I buy a lot of it from Italian stores down in the North End or with Joe Pace's, and I just take it off the stem and I use it, and it definitely has a much more intense flavor than fresh. Rosemary, this is rosemary that we plant in a pot, and why do we do that?
Well, rosemary is not frost herb in this climate. Friends of ours who live in Arizona, they have bushes this high, huge. But here, it doesn't take a frost at all. So what you do is you get a, but the other thing about this is this likes dry roots. So what I do is I put some crushed stone in the bottom of the pot. You can see the ceramic pot there. And then you put your soil on top of that. And then mostly a sandy soil. And then you put your plant in it. And then you water it. And then in the summertime, between what you do when you water the garden or between the rain, it does very well. As long as it has good drainage. You have to have those rocks in the bottom of the pot. Sometimes even I put about 2 inches of rock beneath the pot. You put this in your garden. Then comes October. It'll take a little bit. But when you know it's starting to get, weather's starting to get bad, you'll pull it out, you bring it in the house, you have a sunny window, you can water it a little bit, just keep the roots moist, and not real wet, and water it once every couple of weeks. And then next spring, boom, pop it back in the garden, things off. After a couple of years, you switch pot sizes.
Yeah.
So it'll go very well.
I thought this is one of the interesting uses for this when I was in Italy one year. They actually use the stems after they take off the leaves. The stems become skewers. So it's the skewers for meat, the grilling meat or vegetables they put it out to grill. And it has that, it accepts that kind of perfumey taste of the rosemary, which is very interesting. Next slide. All right, that's more sorrel. We can pass that. We already talked about that. This, of course, is the king of all herbs. Basil, basilico in Italian. The word means kingly, actually. It's a Greek word. It means kingly, and it is the top-notch herb that Italians use, especially Southern Italians. Who would make tomato sauce without basil, right? Who would make pesto in Liguria without basil? You can't do it. So we have a big patch of basil, and we'll let Guy tell you about gardening with that, but then I'm going to give you some tips about cooking with basil.
Well, this does not take to being wet.
Right.
It'll turn brown. And when it's growing in the garden, and it could dry it off in the sun and everything, it survives. It does shoot up, and you can get flowers at the end of the stalks. As soon as you see that, you got to cut the. So
Watch the rug.
anyway, this is.
We're going to have to pay for the rug.
So this does not like wind. It does not like Japanese beetles. Japanese beetles will destroy it. They'll just attack it. You lose half the leaves. The wind makes it tough. So what I do is I put plants in a foot apart, or if you can put it in a pot, big pot, you can put 3, 4 of these plants, and cover it with something called rime. It's a floating roll cover. It's a crossover like fabric. It's interfacing with some clothing too, and so I cover it there, and that way we get nice, soft, tender leaves. We keep the bugs off it, and it grows extremely well because it's a little bit of an increased heat too from being covered. This is a new type called pizza time basil, which is very proven winners. It's just introduce this. And, so it resists mosaic virus, it resists mildew, and it stays very, very well hydrated. It doesn't wilt easily at all.
Okay. So for basil, I know a lot of people like to make pesto. So as Guy said, basil does not like water on its leaves. It doesn't like cold, so don't put it in the refrigerator.
It's the frost indicator plant
Yep.
in your garden.
So what I would say is if you've got a lot of basil, now is the time to make pesto. And if you're going to make pesto, there are 2 ways to make it. You can make it the Italian way, which means you start with a mortar and a pestle. You know what a mortar and a pestle is?
Yeah.
You know, you've got a round bowl, you've got a pounder, and you're pounding down the leaves in the bowl. So mortar and pestle. In fact, that's where pesto comes from. The word pestare means to pound it down. So you would have a bowl, typically a marble bowl. And in the bowl, you've got some fresh garlic, and you've got some coarse salt, and you are pounding this down with the pestle until it starts to get a little bit creamy. Now you're going to add some nuts. Well, you can add walnuts here, or you can add pine nuts. And you pound those. Then you start adding your basil. Now, when I was in Liguria at a big basil farm, I learned something interesting that I try to do at home. When they harvest basil at the basil farms in Liguria, they don't take those big those big green outer leaves. They take, gotta show them, they take the little tiny ones. And I'm thinking, why? Well, less pounding, right? You start with those big leaves, you're gonna be there a while, right? But if you start with the real tiny ones, you're done a lot sooner. So that was something that I learned, so now I'm back home. And once you've got that in the mortar and you've pounded down these little leaves and now they're all starting to get mushy, that's when you start adding your olive oil. And it's really critical here that you use a good olive oil, an extra virgin olive oil, not some cheapo olive oil from the grocery store, because that's a subject for another time. Because most of the olive oils you buy in the grocery store, it's all bogus. None of that is extra virgin olive oil, I need to tell you. So you want to start with a good extra virgin olive oil. You drizzle it in and you keep pounding and pounding and pounding until you now have a nice emulsion, something that looks like pesto sauce. Once I have that, I'm not a fan of freezing it because I think it changes the taste dramatically. Then you want to add some grated Parmigiano Reggiano, which is a cow's milk cheese, or you could add a pecorino cheese, which is a sheep's milk cheese. If you add the sheep's milk cheese, you want to go a little less on the salt because pecorino cheese is salty to begin with. Now you have your pesto. What I do with it is I start putting it into small half-pint jars. I leave about 1/4 inch empty at the top of the jar. At the top of the jar, I fill it with olive oil, the extra virgin olive oil. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that so that I can seal the pesto sauce so that no air gets in there. Because if air did get in there, it would all start to turn brown, and we don't want that.
This
Okay.
all originated at the time of the Romans.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have refrigeration.
All right.
This is one of the ways they could preserve
They could
food.
preserve
They
things.
cover it with olive oil.
Once it's like that, I put it in the refrigerator. And every time I want to use it, so now I take it out and it's got that solid olive oil cap at the top. I take a small spoon, I dig into one side of it, I take out what I want. Pesto sauce is very dense, so you don't need a lot when you're cooking with it. I take out what I want, and then I just put a little bit more oil there where that hole is, where I took the sauce from. Put it back in the refrigerator. It'll stay like this for a month. People freeze it, in ice cube trays and all that stuff. That's fine if you want to do that, but it doesn't work for me.
Now, Mary Ann, tell them what you really do.
What?
You don't stand there with a mortar and pestle.
I'm going to, that's the next story. Wait, I did that, you saw me do that on one of my shows, I did do that. But
She did.
I told you there were 2 methods, didn't I? I only got to one. Thank you, guys. I'm trying to trip me up, he's not. The second method is to take all of those leaves and put them in your food processor. Which is, I have to realize that people don't have hours of time to cook, right? So when I write these books, I gotta think, who's my audience? These are not people like your Nona or your Zia, who's home all day long. And she was making pasta from scratch and all that stuff. No.
You got this much space.
Right. This is for people who don't have a lot of time, but they want to eat right. They want to eat well. So in your food processor, you put the basil leaves, you put the garlic, you put the nuts, you put the salt, zip, and then through the feed tube, you add the olive oil a little bit at a time till you have that nice emulsion. And then you can go on and, put it in jars just the way I described to you if you were using a mortar and a pestle. Okay. Next slide. All right, you can talk about cucumbers.
Well, this shows if you grow cucumbers on a trellis or in even a simple tomato cage, which everybody knows about, they grow nice, long, and thin. They don't get dirty. Also, this gives you using vertical space in your garden instead of horizontal space, so it gives you much more room. So a regular cucumber plant will take up almost as much room sprawling as these 4 rows of chairs. Whereas you will be using 1 row of chairs with vertical planting. This is called the market manure, which is a very prominent, well-known tomato cucumber which you can buy.
Next slide. All right, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, now this is a pole bean. It's a yellow pole bean. Most people don't like yellow beans, or they say, but I defy you not to like this bean. This bean is, the Italian, this is called the miracle of Venice. Yes, it's from the Veneto area. It grows, and the miracle is, you see how these beans are, they grow slowly, well not too slowly, but they grow in such a way that you can usually catch them before they start to seed heavily. So you don't want a bean that has big seeds sticking out. You see how nice and flat these are? Okay, so what we do is we go through, we keep about six towers of these. We go through and pick it clean, literally leaving nothing on the vine. 3 days later, we got just as many beans. That's why it's called miracle. You cook it 3 times a week. Pretty soon they're coming out of your ears. You don't know what to do with them. It's amazing. It's a wonderful crop. It's the only pole bean I grow that I like. I try other things, but I'm always disappointed.
Next slide.
And here's our towers. See? Yeah, so once these start to flower and form beans, you're in for it. Okay.
Next slide. Okay, so for me, this is the best tomato ever. This is something called piano. In Italy, this grows at the base of Mount Vesuvius in rich volcanic soil. And you notice that it has a point at the end, like a little teardrop. And it's called piano because the word piano means to hang. And any of you who've been to Italy or have seen pictures of Italy know that you've seen these hanging tomatoes. They're hung on these ropes in bunches. And they're hung like that so that they can dry out and they can have them for, the winter months. This is, it's not a cherry tomato and it's not a plum tomato. It's an in-between tomato.
And it wasn't really discovered until about 250 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's probably a mutation of a large cherry tomato. But it has, you tell me.
Well, this is a low-acid tomato, which is great for sauces. You want low-acid tomatoes. But also, it's got a texture that is very velvety. So besides making sauces on it, this is great as a salad tomato with just some extra virgin olive oil, a little vinegar, some fresh basil thrown over the top, salt. That's it, it's delicious. But I freeze a lot of these too. I use a dehydrator to freeze them. I've given up on the canning thing. That was something that we did, for years and years, my mother did, and I hated that process. So one day the light bulb went on, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to do something different. So I started out picking these tomatoes and other tomatoes, plum tomatoes as well, and other types of cherry tomatoes. I would take them directly from the garden, put them in plastic bags, just like they are, throw them in the freezer. Then when I wanted to make sauce or soup, I'd take them out, frozen as marbles, put them in a big pot. I would add just about that much water just to film the bottom of the pot, put a cover on it, put it on simmer, and just let those tomatoes sink down. When they were really mushy, then I took my immersion blender, or you could use a food processor if you wanted to, and I went zip, 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 threw that all into a strainer on top of a big pot, seeded out the seeds and the skins, and I had the best tomato soup with one ingredient, the tomatoes.
Yeah, you do this with cherry tomatoes, and you'll never eat tomato soup any other way in your life.
Exactly.
You don't even have to put salt in it.
Yeah.
It's just like eating
And
fresh
you're
tomato.
not eating any chemicals or anything. I can't tell you how many times it just bothers me, the amount of junk that is in the food that we eat. Next slide. Now this is a plum tomato. Now I know what you're going to say, because I get this question all the time. Oh, it's a San Marzano. No. Yes, San Marzano is a plum tomato, but not every plum tomato is a San Marzano, and here's why. Because San Marzano tomatoes can only be grown in one place. In San Marzano, near Naples. So when you go to the store, and you've been fooled, I'm telling you, you've been fooled. You've been buying all these tomatoes you think are San Marzano tomatoes, and they are not. Because if they don't have the initials DOP on the can, DOP with the European seal, which is a little yellow and red seal on the can, you're just buying plum tomatoes.
Yeah, you'll pay $1 or $2 more for a can of
San Marzano.
the real thing.
Yeah.
But the quality difference is incredible once you compare the two.
Right. And San Marzanos are always canned whole. They're never chopped, diced. So if it says on the can, peeled and diced San Marzano, forget that. That's not the real thing. These are plum tomatoes that we grow in our garden. It's a variety called Redorta. It's a very plump tomato. It has low acid, few seeds. It's perfect for making passata. You know what passata is, right? Past. Passata means past. So you've taken all the tomatoes and you put them in your tomato machine to get all of the pulp, leaving the skins and the seeds behind. And that's the basis for your sauces, for like your tomatoes. Or you could just freeze them as whole plum tomatoes, like I do for the cherries. And again, you put them in a pot, cook them down, zip, zip, zip. Now you have tomatoes to make tomato sauce. And many times I dry them like this. I'm drying them right now, actually. So they're sitting on a dehydrator, a rack, and I cut them in half lengthwise after I wash them. And I put them on the dehydrator, put the cover on the dehydrator, and let them go until they've lost all of their, just about all of their moisture, not all. They need to be bendable, like a dried apricot, that consistency. You don't want to dry them until they're crispy, like a potato chip. They have to be bendable. Once they're like that, I take them out, and then I do something that you have to say, well, why is she doing that? She just took all the moisture out, now she's going to put all the moisture back in. I have a big pot of vinegar, red wine vinegar, boiling on the stove. So I take these dried tomatoes now, I put them in this big pot of red wine vinegar.
For 30 seconds.
I boil them 30 seconds. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this to set the color, set the flavor, and kill anything that could be on those tomatoes. I take them out. I have sterilized, clean jars now, and I'm layering these tomatoes in the jar with a little salt extra virgin olive oil, a little salt, extra virgin, till I get to the top. Again, doing the same thing that I did with pesto. I'll leave a little space at the top, filling that with, excuse me, extra virgin olive oil. Seal those jars, and then you put them in a hot water bath. Excuse me, you gotta cook them for about 45 minutes or so. Can you put garlic in with them? No. No, 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 no garlic. Because you could run the risk there of botulism, so you never want to put raw garlic into those jars. You could cook the garlic first so that you're killing anything that could be on it, and then put the garlic. But I find they don't need this. They don't need this at all, so I just do the tomatoes with the olive oil and the salt.
Is that a book?
That's online.
Okay.
It's online. It's not in this book. It's online. Then what I do with these is I store them, or I put them in the refrigerator, and when I want to use them, I take them out, let them come to room temperature. You came home from work one night and you're tired as a bone and you don't know what to do. You take a few of those tomatoes, zip in your food processor, boil the pasta, take a little of the pasta water, mix it with these now tomato pesto. Bingo, you have dinner. And it's very delicious. It's got a nice Sprite flavor. This tomato, these tomatoes they're just, I can't explain it, they're just delicious. You're just gonna have to try it. Anyway, that's the story of the plums. So don't be fooled by something that says San Marzano, because if you pay $7 a can and it doesn't have the DOP, just remember those 3 letters, DOP, which means that these tomatoes grew in a specific place. They were overseen by a consortium that regulated how these tomatoes grew, when they were harvested, and how they were canned, and they guarantee that these are from San Marzano area.
The one thing that Miriam that was brought up, and everyone should, so we don't forget about this, there on the Ciao Italia website, Marion has 1,500 recipes, and half of those recipes also have a video with them. So you can look up this tomato sauce and watch her make it. So
Do you want to talk about your tomatoes while we have them here? Or do you want to hold your microphone and you get your little basket? Yeah. They can't see this if you
I know, but I brought some of these from our home garden. We grow about 6 or 8 different types. But this one is called Yellow Boy. Surprise. This one here is called Costoluto Genovese. It's otherwise known in this country as the ugly tomato. It's a multi-locular tomato. Fantastic eating tomato. Fantastic to put in salads. Then we have something here. Could you hold this one?
Sure, I'll hold your microphone. You hold it.
I need one. Hold that, and I'll just grab it. So, this is called Cor de Boule. In other words, heart of the bull. Does that look like a heart? Yeah. And this has delicious salad tomato. Wonderful taste. We just got a couple of plums here. These are sort of the ones we do. Yeah. This one is called Pantan. No, this is Brandywine. Does anyone know Brandywine? Have you heard of Brandywine? It's an heirloom tomato. Fantastic taste. It's one of the best of all, but it's very disease prone. So,
Okay, got them all?
yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Next slide.
Did you say disease?
All right, do you want to talk about these, or you just talk about them?
Yeah, well, this is also this is the ugly tomato that I just showed you. It's all those lobes, but this is fantastic flavor. It's easy to grow, and it's prolific. It's really prolific, as you can see. This is one part of one plant.
And this is one of those vegetables too, like freckles, where it doesn't look like lettuce or it doesn't look like a tomato. It can't be good because it's rich, but it's actually very delicious. Next slide. Okay.
Okay, now these tomatoes here, this is something called Pantano. it's a variety. And this is right. These are bred that they only turn about this far, and then they start to round. But these taste delicious. They have a nice, biting, sweet tomato taste.
Okay, next slide. Oh, yes, we have to talk about Anina, which is the name of this eggplant. You want to mention that? You want to talk about that?
Well, the big thing is I don't blow those black bombs. It's called Black Beauty, really. But you know, to me, those have bitter seeds, and you have to slice them and salt them, and squeeze them down to use them. These other varieties are much better. This is called Anina. There's another one called Dancer, which is just a solid lavender color. And these, white flesh, very small seeds, and best thing to do with this, you can slice it, put a little bit of olive oil on it, put it on the grill just until you get it soft, get some real worms in it. And then, Marianne says you have your marinade made, which is made of?
Which is made of extra virgin olive oil, some fresh oregano, vinegar, garlic, salt, pepper.
Yeah,
That's it.
and hot off the grill, you put it right in there. And then you just cover it for a half hour or so, and you can eat it then. You can keep it in the refrigerator for 3-4 days. It gets better every day.
So the eggplant, there is a recipe in the book for caponata, which is a Sicilian eggplant salad. There's really no translation of the word caponata. We think that it's probably something, you know, in the Arabic culture, because Sicily was populated by the Arabs. You know, and they brought a lot of different products to Sicily, starting in the 8th century, and eggplant's one of them. So you'll see a lot of different preparations. Of course, we all know eggplant parmigiano, right? Eggplant parmesan, eggplant parm. None of what you eat is eggplant parm is eggplant parm in Italy, or in Sicily, rather. So it's treated very simply, where the eggplant slices are first fried in peanut oil, not in olive oil. And the reason being is, number one, olive oil would make this so heavy, and it would be so costly, because olive oil is not cheap. Peanut oil, because eggplant slices act like a sponge, they just absorb everything. Peanut oil, they do not absorb as much peanut oil as they would olive oil. So it is preferred to use peanut oil. So there are many ways to do this. You take the slices. I never ever do that whole salting thing, because as Guy said, if you pick these or you buy them when they're young, small, not these big jobbies, they have less seeds. The seeds that's where the bitterness is. So the bigger the eggplant, the more seeds you have, the more bitter the eggplant is going to be. I never have that problem because I always pick them small. So once I do, you can either bake them on a bake sheet with a little bit of olive oil until they're limp, and then you can do your layering with tomatoes and pecorino cheese. And then a little bit more tomato, pecorino cheese. So our versions are, you know, they're bombs, because it's eggplant, then we got meatballs in there, we got ricotta cheese, you know, we got salami. None of that would be recognizable in Sicily. So you can find a lot of recipes for eggplant on my website, plus a recipe for caponata, which is a sweet and sour tasting eggplant salad. Next slide. And this is the other variety.
This is called Dancer.
Dancer.
And also there's a white variety.
Yes.
All white.
Yes. Okay. Next slide. Okay, everyone's favorite, right? Zucchini.
But this one's different. This is grown for its blossoms. This zucchini plant is very small zucchini, but it gives huge, big blossoms. And they pick the blossoms, they fill them with ricotta cheese, and they put a light batter on it and deep fry it. So, next slide, please. This is real Italian zucchini. This This is Florentina, and it's ribbed. It has this variegated green surface. This is about the size you want to pick them. You don't want them any more than 60 inches. I mean, these you could go down the Cochico River on one of them if you let it go. You want them about 6 to 12 inches. And you cut this in rounds, and there's almost no seeds. And if you saute this in olive oil with a little bit of onions, a little bit of garlic, you get a nutty, tasting, crispy, crunchy vegetable. It's not like the green torpedoes that they throw at you in soup, those solid green things. Those are, the reason you get those is because they can grow them real quick, and they can cold store them for 2 or 3 months. This stuff, 4 or 5 days in the refrigerator, it's good, but after that, they start to get soft. But this is a real joy. I look forward to this every single day. My favorite dish is that sauce I just described to you with some pasta. You can't beat it. Next. Well, these are Italian peppers. These are Italian frying peppers, or you can eat them in a very thin wall. It's called Corno di Toro, in other words, horn of the bull. And these are wonderful flavor.
These are great, also done with, there's a recipe in the book for peppers that are marinated in a vinaigrette. I love these because, as he said, they are thin-walled. Sometimes I just take them and I stuff them with different stuffings and I bake them. That's really good. Or I'll grill them and take the skins off, and then I'll put them in plastic bags, small plastic bags, put them in the freezer. They'll stay very well like that, and then you can take them out during the course of the winter, and you can use them in different kinds of cooking preparations. Next slide. So there's Guy's little bench in the woods. As I told you, everything comes in at one time. So, now we have to deal with what we're going to do with this.
Yeah, this is what the bench looks like for last week and the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right, next slide. So now we come to what did we do with all of this stuff? So there are some lovely pictures in your cookbook. I cooked all of these and food styled everything. So I did everything that's in this book. I didn't take the photograph, but I did the preparation. So this is cauliflower. Can be very boring if you just boil it and eat it. This makes life a little easier. What this is a whole head of cauliflower that I first put in the microwave for about, 15, 20 seconds just to soften it up a little bit. Then I put it in a pan, and I made a combination of tomato paste, anchovy. You can use either only anchovies or anchovy paste, olive oil, salt, pepper, a little hot red pepper flake, and oregano. And I painted the whole cauliflower with this mixture. And just put it in the oven, just like that, 350. And I let it go until I could get a fork in there or a knife and it was fork tender. This is absolutely delicious. And again, no sweat. All you did was paint this thing with a little bit of tomato paste and anchovies. See, part of cooking is knowing what to put together. So, right, really, it doesn't. You don't have to be in the kitchen forever. So you could eat this like as a side dish. You could chop it up and put it with pasta if you wanted to. So I really like this variation of making cauliflower. Next slide. And cucumbers, cucumber salad, cucumber sandwich, those are nice. How about a cucumber boat? This is easy. This is a complete meal in a cucumber because you have your chickpeas, which are protein. You've got tuna, more protein, right? You've got herbs, you've got olive oil, you've got a little bit of salt, you've got lunch, you've got supper. Simple. On a hot day like today, this is perfect. Next slide. Here's a cauliflower pizza for those people who are gluten intolerant. Here's something you might want to try. This is a cauliflower crust pizza, just with small cherry tomatoes from the garden, fresh basil, and mozzarella cheese. Next slide. And there you have it. All right, so now we're going to open it up to questions. I know you have questions. Yes?
Garden question. You put down black plastic as milk. How does the plants get water? It's porous.
Well, you can buy black plastic most of this porous.
Okay.
I mean,
The other thing is, for years, I used silver hoses underneath every one of those, because heaven help me if I had a crop failure and she didn't have what she needed for the TV show.
Any other questions?
Rainwater will get through it. And if it soaks down from the sides, it's not a problem.
Yeah. The question with that, yeah.
Yes, you talked about olive oil. We used to have friends from Greece that would bring us in the greenest, most beautiful olive oil. Where do you get yours? I cannot find in any supermarket that's not fulfilled about that.
What you probably had was an unfiltered olive oil. It was dense, cloudy. Was it cloudy? Yeah, dark. Yeah, unfiltered. That olive oil is a subject for another day, and I'll tell you why. Again, you're probably buying stuff you think is olive oil, but it really isn't. It's a refined oil of some sort. Extra virgin olive oil, to give you a simple explanation and definition, is this. The olives have to come from the olive oil has to come from the very first pressing of the olives. Now the olives are harvested in the fall, usually October, November. The nets are under the trees, the olives are being harvested. And as soon as they are harvested, they are taken to the frontoil, the olive oil production facility, to be pressed, pits and all. So the olives that are pressed and the oil that is extracted, that's called the first pressing. First pressing. So on a bottle of extra virgin olive oil, you want to look for those words: cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil. Turn the bottle around and read what is on the back. Where is this oil coming from? We can say that extra virgin olive oil you have is a product of Italy, but has never been produced in Italy. Why? Because in the middle of the Mediterranean waters, Italian Mediterranean waters, you have these big ships, and they're bringing olives from Turkey, from Greece, from Tunisia, you name it. Now all of these olives are on a ship that's in Italian waters, being processed. So we can say this is a product of
No, it's
Italy,
produced in Europe.
produced in Italy. On the back of a real bottle of extra virgin olive oil, you will see, where is this produced? Does it come from Campania, southern Italy? Is it from Tuscany? It will tell you this. What's the harvest date? What is the sell date by? Is it a single cultivar? In other words, is this an olive oil made with one type of olive? Or is it something made with a variety of different olives? In Italy, there are over 350 types of olives. And you really want to look for those that are the single cultivar. When you buy a good extra virgin olive oil, you have to train your palate. It's like training your palate for wine. Do you like really dense, fruity wines? Do you like lighter tasting wines? Do you like wines that have a bite? You got a little, action going down there in your throat? This is the same situation for olive oil. The olive oils from northern Italy tend to be much lighter, fruitier. The olive oils from southern Italy are denser, more flavorful, and more spicy, peppery. So you got to decide, what am I going and how am I going to use these olive oils? Extra virgin olive oil to me is a condiment. It's something to be drizzled on something that has been cooked, or it's a salad. But I'm not deep frying with extra virgin olive oil, because heat is one of the enemies of olive oil, as well as light. And that's why extra virgin olive oil is always, always bottled in a glass bottle or in a tin can, so there is no light penetrating into that olive oil. So it's a situation where you really have to do some homework here, you know. But all that stuff that's the general stuff that you find in the grocery store, those are all refined oils. They're, you know, they have solvents added to them. So they're not the real thing. I didn't hear that. What?
Where do you buy your olive oil?
Where do I buy olive oil?
Yeah,
Well, I'll give you a little secret. And believe me, I get no recompensation from any of these companies. But if you go to Aldi's, we all know where Aldi's is, right?
Yeah.
Go into the olive oil section there, and there is a company, yeah, right. You just did this, see? There's a company called Bono. They're a certified Italian company. They make other products besides olive oil. But you can find their olive oil in a dark glass bottle, DOP. It's a DOP with the European seal coming from Sicily. It's a Sicilian extra virgin olive oil for $12.99. That is a deal.
16 ounces.
What?
What's the name of this?
Of the olive oil, Bono, B-O-N-O. B-O-N-O.
It's the only one they have here.
Now, don't let me go to Aldi's tomorrow and find that they're I'll be really mad. Another, you know, there are many good extra virgin olive oil companies. You can go online and find Del Orto is another good one. DELL''ORTO. That's an olive oil that comes from around Salerno in Campania. But you're going to pay. I mean, it's not cheap. You know, it's not cheap. But you only need a little bit, and it makes all the difference in your cooking. So for extra virgin olive oil, you could do a light saute or do a drizzle, as I say, as a condiment. But I would never deep fry it at all.
Oh, it smokes awful fast.
Huh?
It smokes awful fast.
Yes, it has a high smoke point, yes. Yeah, but you know, right now too, if you don't want to use extra virgin olive oil as frequently in your cooking, Sicily now grows a lot of avocados. And avocado oil is a great oil to use for cooking. It has a high smoke point. It's a healthy oil. And so it's a little bit less expensive than extra virgin olive oil. Yeah. Did you have something you want to say?
Yes.
Yeah, do you have problems with your tomato plants with diseases? I always have a problem where it starts at the bottom, the leaves get spots and then turn yellow and work its way up and the plants look awful.
Yeah, I know. I fight it every year.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right, I don't feel bad then, okay.
Seriously, several things.
Okay.
What happens is rain brings mildew and other types of fungal diseases. And you get yellow spots, and then you get black spots followed with yellow rings around them and that. But a lot of this fungus gets on the plants from the ground, because once you have a tomato patch, it's going to get in the soil, and then when it rains, it bounces up. Also, the rain brings some of it. But the thing I do is, as soon as these plants are high enough to put them into a cage, which is really the second or third week, then I start taking off the bottom leaves as the plant grows, so that in the end, when I start picking tomatoes, because we're this far from the ground, we're at least 2 feet from the ground.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So and you're still going to get it in the plant, but whenever you see these yellow leaves, strip them off. Be careful to wear rubber gloves, and also don't touch good leaves with the hands that you're using to grab the bad ones.
Does
If you
black
strip the
plastic-
leaves, you'll get
Okay.
tomatoes. It takes more work, but you'll get it.
All right, does the straw help as well too, to keep it from
Yeah,
bouncing up?
yeah, you can use
Okay.
straw mulch. That's
Yeah,
good.
okay.
Yes.
Do you have a problem with like aphids, or do you have a natural pest spray that you might use, or something that's not
dish soap, and water in a spray bottle.
Oh,
It'll take care of it.
thank you.
Will you be in Italy anytime this year?
Excuse me?
Will you be in Italy anytime this year?
Yes, I'm going to be in Italy in September. Every year, Guy and I take a group of people to Italy. And,
Small group, only 18 to 20.
Yeah, 22 people. And we go, and it's a food tour, obviously. And we go to different regions, and every year we go, first we go north, then we go south, then we go north. This year we're going north to the Piemonte. A lot of people don't know about Piemonte, but beautiful region, lots of wonderful wines come from Piemonte. This is the home of the slow food movement. And so we're going to be taking your group to experience cooking, all of them cooking, the local foods of the Piedmont. We take them to markets, we go to museums.
And there's
We're gonna
lots
go-
of history.
we're gonna go
history
truffle
tour of all the
hunting.
major places in the
Truffle
area
hunting
with
with
a
the
guide,
dogs.
with a guide,
Yeah. With guides,
licensed guide.
you eat in beautiful places, you meet wonderful people, and you come home with, oh, I wish I lived in Italy. Yes. You can go on our website and find out about future trips. Anybody else have a question? Well, you have been a wonderful, wonderful audience. Thank you so much for giving us.